Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. This tutorial I am very excited to show you. I'm going to show you how I made this print directly onto fondant, no edible sheets, no wafer paper, no nothing, just white fondant. It's pretty spectacular. And then I added a textured fondant for the top and a gold middle tier, which looks a little more bronze. It's just the brand of luster dust, but it worked really well with that faded floral on the bottom. And this cake was actually it's a demo cake for bridal expos. So I was showing you, though, I have the 6-inch, this 8-inch, and the 10-inch foam rounds, and all three of them are 6 inches tall. So those are the numbers we're going with. And then I'm going to start by preparing the fondant wrap for the top tier. All I did was I rolled out the fondant and I cut it to the size of the cake, measure the top to the bottom, and then the circumference, and add a little bit of leeway on either end. And then it's just a clay cutting tool, and I'm just pushing vertical lines, spaced as evenly as I can all the way down that, and pushed it to the side and just so that it can set up a little bit. And I'm going to do that with all three tiers with the fondant. They're all going to sit aside after they're rolled out before I apply them to the foam dummy. Now, all of my fondant is being applied with just brushed on shortening. And honestly, I'm using the same technique for all three tiers. You could use water if you want to on the foam, but I find that the shortening works just fine. And honestly, maybe a little bit better than water, because if you need to move it, you can. That's the glory of working with the shortening. I use it all the time because you can move your fondant if you misplace it. That's for the middle tier, and I just colored it gold with gold color gel. Just because it's going to be a gold finish, I kind of like to, I don't always do it, but I kind of like to use color like you're prepping the fondant for the color that the metallic that you're going to do on top. You can do it black, you could do it white, you could do it brown, you could do it tan. Any of those colors are going to work, honestly. You'll just get a slightly different final metallic finish. And I wanted to go with the gold on this one. Honestly, because I had some leftover gold fondant, so why not do that? So it doesn't hurt anything, and it uses up some of that fondant. And this is how I do the fondant color print transfer. You can use a piece of acetate, or even that other piece is just a piece of, watch this is so cool, a piece of plastic folder. I did both, and I just printed off the image. We downloaded the image we wanted, make sure that it's a free printable image, and downloaded it and printed it off on the acetate. You got to cut that acetate to the size of a piece of paper so that it will fit through your edible printer. And then you move it directly onto your freshly rolled out fondant. This piece I didn't roll out until I was ready to do the transfer. So the fondant is freshly rolled out. Make sure you get all of your cornstarch off of that. And then you print out your image and you place it directly onto your fondant. Carefully, you don't want to move it around. It didn't really want to move around too much. But look at that. Isn't that amazing? I can't claim this idea. I did see something similar on Instagram, and I will try to find, I think I saved the original creator, their information. So I will tag that in the video description so that you can check out their work also. And then I did the two different ones. You can see that when I used the folder, it's not as intense of a color. I think there's just a little texture on that folder, even though you really can't tell. I think there's just enough texture in it that the color didn't transfer as crisply, but that's okay. Since it's going to wrap around the cake, you're not going to see all three of them side by side. Isn't that cool? I'm sorry, I'm just floored by this entire thing. In fact, I just did another tutorial that I filmed yesterday, and it's using the same technique, just in a different way. Now, to attach, that definitely you need to let that sit aside and dry. And it's not going to take long to dry. But we're going to go ahead and start attaching our fondant onto our sides. And I'm just using shortening. Again, I'm just brushing it on the back of the pieces of fondant. And since this is a dummy cake, you can't really do this so much with real cake, but if you are needing hints and tips and tricks on how to decorate a foam cake or a dummy cake, whatever you want to call it, a demo cake, that's kind of what this whole video is for, on top of showing you that technique. So for my demo cakes, I like to roll the cake dummy on the back of the fondant. And the cake was, this is the bottom, so I flipped it upside down so I could do an even cut off of the bottom. I don't like to cut the excess off the top unless I forget to apply it upside down. Then I'll chill it and then cut it off. But I prefer to just go ahead and turn your cake upside down. And I do that with real cake too. Turn it upside down, do your wrap, then cut off the excess off the bottom. We're going to do the same thing with the gold tier. And I prefer to do my demo cakes in fondant for a couple of reasons. It's a little cleaner. I feel like fondant holds up for longer periods of time on a shelf or from season to season when you're going to your expos. I feel like it lasts longer than buttercream does. Buttercream kind of gets a strange smell to it. And inevitably, somebody's going to touch your buttercream. Fondant is firmer. So those are the reasons I like to do that. So you saw that I took my edible print, had dried. So I flipped it upside down. I make a mistake here. I accidentally put that on upside down because your image is reversed from what you see on your computer screen. So you got that going against you. The image is reversed, and then it's upside down in front of you. So you can get confused. So yes, I did do the image upside down. And I went ahead and finished it up. And I wanted to include this because this is real-time me trying to figure out, did I put it upside down? I don't think this is right. Shoot. It's okay. It can be fixed. You can see on the side there, I pulled that piece off. Another reason, just proof of why using shortening is a good idea, because I pulled it right off and I can use that to cut another piece of fondant. And I attached the cake drum with hot glue. You can do that with your dummy cakes. So now I'm just rolling out some black fondant. And honestly, I think black would look better with this design anyways. So before I realized that, I was thinking, how am I going to make this black? Am I going to paint it? Am I going to paint it with an airbrush? Am I going to use a sponge to get a kind of a not so, because all these prints, when you do these prints, they're a little more faded, a little bit more antique-y looking than your original image. But that's okay. I didn't have to worry about it. All I had to do was place this piece on top, and I'm just butting it up against the print. Since the side can't go above, on the outside edge, cover that outside edge of the piece of fondant on top, I don't think it mattered. So that, that catastrophe avoided or fixed. So, and I'm also doing my gold with a slightly different technique this time. And I am using a different brand because this was for the bakery I work at. And I am working with what my boss gets. It's a different gold than what I typically use in my videos. She gets both kinds, but we have a large container of this, so we're using it up. And it's more of a bronzy antique gold. But what I did was I brushed on shortening, and then I'm dry brushing the luster dust on there. And it gives you a more muted metallic look. If you wanted a more bright, because you can see here where I'm painting details, I am kind of edging out the flowers to kind of bring them out, and I'm also using this gold painting technique to kind of camouflage where the pieces met. Anyway, if you do vodka or Everclear with this dust, you can see that bottle there, right there. It's going to be more shiny, but that's okay. I wasn't so worried about it with this. And I transferred it onto the top just using a sharpened skewer and pounding it all the way down through both tiers. And I'm using piping gel to attach these together because that will act more as a glue. And there's our finished product, guys. I added some flowers to it, some artificial flowers. You could finish this off however you want. And I think it's gorgeous, and I can't wait to keep using this technique. I hope you learned something. If you have any questions, leave me a message, and we'll catch you on the next one.